would say I have family that drive me absolutely crazy at the holidays. Okay. All right. Well, they might be sitting next to you right now, so you're very brave for admitting that. I didn't have a cousin Eddie growing up, but I did have an Uncle Billy. Okay. Uncle Billy was my mom's brother, and he was the crazy one in the family. He was the one that always was doing things that was kind of disruptive. And whenever their whole family showed up at my grandma's house for Christmas or Thanksgiving, I mean, the whole dynamic changed. You know, there was all of a sudden the house got very loud. You know, it got very, there was a lot of activity going on, and there were stories after stories. We didn't know which ones were true, which ones were not true. You know what I'm talking about? That kind of uncle. And but you know, I grew to eventually in my early years, I didn't like Uncle Billy as much, but in my later years, I grew to appreciate him because he was just him, right? He was just that uncle, that person in your life that are kind of more of a mild annoyance or a disruption, but maybe they're not. Maybe they're not the person that absolutely drives us insane in the holidays. Well, I mean, for some of us, and right now, how many guys would say that you have a cousin Eddie in your family? Anybody? No? Okay, I got one. Okay, all right, now we're going. All right, how many guys would say you don't have a cousin Eddie in your family? Somebody? Just FYI, if you're raising your hand, it's probably you. So just be aware of that. Just know. But you know, here's the thing. Today, I don't. You know, we all have those people in our families that kind of drive us a little bit batty because they're kind of crazy. But here's my question. When the doorbell rings, is there a person that you say, man, I hope it's not this person? Or I hope it's not that person. Fill in the blank here. We got a blank. When you see the holidays and the doorbell rings, who do you say, I hope it's not that person? Now, I want you to take out your connection cards and write it on there. I'm kidding. Don't do that. I don't want them to find it later and be really upset with you. But we all have these people in our lives, right? And for some of us, it's the mild kind of annoyances, the people that we're like, man, I just wish they weren't so kooky and weird or whatever like that. But for some of us, we have some people in our lives that there is some serious relational conflict going on with, don't we? I mean, there's some people in our lives that things have happened at the holidays, things that have gone on, and it's been an explosion all of a sudden. And all of a sudden, there's all this conflict, there's all this tension, there's all this, I can't believe you said that to me, or I can't believe you did that to me. Last year at Thanksgiving, I made a huge mistake at Thanksgiving. We weren't going to see my mother for Thanksgiving, but I did talk to her the day before on the phone. And we had a great conversation. It was like a 30-minute conversation. And I thought, well, hey, I talked to Mom, you know, and everything like that. It's good. Well, I get the day after Thanksgiving, my phone absolutely blows up. My sister is telling me how I've broken my mother's heart and how these awful things. And then she goes into all these personal things about me that apparently have been simmering under the surface with her for almost a year or two. That, you know, you don't help out with this or that or the other. You're never around. And some of these issues I probably need to go see a psychologist about a little bit later, you know. But, I mean, there were all of a sudden this explosion happened. You know, I'm like, whoa, what happened there? What happened? Why was there this explosion that happened? But I didn't realize that there were some issues that were just kind of simmering under the surface for a long, long time. And when these explosions happen with our family, don't we realize sometimes, man, this is not just about today. This is not just about the thing that I said, or I showed up late, or I burned the casserole, or something like that. I mean, these were issues that have been going on for a long, long time. And when they do, we wonder, how do we put this thing back together? How do we do these holidays anymore when there's all this conflict? How do we pick up the pieces? Now, we talked a little bit about this last week, is that I believe that holidays were God's idea. There are many times in the Old Testament where God said, hey, take a break, stop all work, I want you guys to have a festival. I want you to get together as family. I want you to have a time to celebrate. I want you to have time to remember who I am as your God. I want you to take time off of your normal routine and pause, time out, and come back together. I want you to remember together. I want you to have this time that kind of solidifies your family unit, where it just solidifies who you are as a family and makes it stronger. But for many of us, the holidays do the exact opposite, don't they? In a lot of cases, those things that were meant to bring us together, and I believe this is the case for a lot of things that God, it was his idea, but society and other things have kind of twisted it and made it something that's not healthy, that's not good, that really rips us to shreds in some ways. And I believe the holidays can, if we don't allow God to use us in the ways that he wants to, they can really hurt us. And I think for most of us, these things that we've been talking about over the last 2 weeks, and we're going to talk about for the next couple of weeks, we deal with these things all the time, right? I mean, we deal with stress every single day, right? We deal with family conflict every single day. We deal with being lonely for some of us. But I think what the holidays do is they kind of just turn up the volume. They make things amplified. They bring it even louder into our lives. Now, God intended for us to turn up the volume on the things that are healthy and strong and powerful in our lives. But for a lot of us, if we don't deal with some of these things, they can explode and maybe they won't ever come back together. Or maybe they will years later. And we would have missed out on so much opportunity to spend time together. Now, one thing I want to bring up is I want to show you guys a picture here. And you recognize this picture? This is Norman Rockwell's family portrait, or I'm not sure exactly who these people are. This is when we think about the perfect holiday, right? We think about this picture. This is everybody smiling. Grandma, grandpa are there. Mom and dad. The kids are gathered around. Everybody's smiling. But for a lot of us, this is not the picture, right? For a lot of us, this is not how, because for a lot of us, maybe there's been divorce. Maybe there's been strife where aunt whoever doesn't want to sit next to this person over here because there's been this conflict. And I think for a lot of us, when we come into the holidays, we have this unrealistic picture. But maybe, just maybe, God does not want perfect, stock, smiling, polished people. Maybe he wants to take imperfect, messed up people and say, these are people that I can use to show my love and my grace and my redemption. I can take these people that have all these issues and I can work through them to show a picture of my love. I can work through them to show a picture of who I am. Now, I want to dive into today's message, and this is a great story. And once again, this is not a traditional Christmas story, but I think it's so powerful for what we deal with at the holidays. And many of you might know the story of Jacob and Esau. And this is these are Jacob was a huge figure in the Old Testament, very important to the Jewish people. And in verse 25, this is the story of Jacob and Esau. It says, when the time came for her, that's Rebekah, to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. The first that come out was red, and his whole body was like a hairy garment. That does not sound nice. I don't even know what that is. So they named him Esau. After this, his brother came out with his hand grasping Esau's heel. So he was named Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when Rebekah gave birth to them. So in other words, picture this lady who is advanced in years, and there's a whole story behind how she got pregnant with these boys and whatnot. But she's a little bit older, and all of a sudden these twins are jostling inside of her womb, wrestling for position. I mean, this is even before they're born. And she's like, man, there's tumult, there's all kinds of stuff going on in here. Well, Esau wins. He comes out first. But Jacob's like, well, not so fast, buddy. I'm right there with you. I mean, this is like, seconds maybe. But the importance was that the firstborn of the family got the blessing. They received the patriarchal blessing. He's to become the executor of the will when the father passes away. He's to receive the bulk of the inheritance. He's to make all the family decisions during this time. And it was a huge, huge deal. But all throughout their time, this became a point of contention for Esau and Jacob. Now, they were not, these guys were twins, but they were not like the double spearmint twins, where they like thought the same thoughts and things like that. They were completely different. Esau was kind of more of a man's man, kind of go out, hunter-gatherer kind of type. And Jacob was kind of like, stay back, kind of hang with mom. There was a dynamic there that was not healthy where dad kind of favored Esau and mom favored Jacob and, wanted to see the best for him. And that's a recipe for disaster right there. Maybe some of you in this place today, you would say, man, that's my family. Yeah, there was some dysfunction there. There was some strife there. There was some things that were going on that were not healthy. Were not good for me. Were not good for my brother, my sister, or whoever. And man, it really hurt in so many ways. Well, to make a long story short, and you can read the whole story. I recommend you guys going back and reading Genesis 25 through at least 31. It's a lot this story kind of stretches out over many, many chapters, and we could probably do a whole series just on this one message. But Rebekah came to Jacob and said, Jacob, you know what? It's just not fair that your brother's got the blessing and you don't. And I favor you, and maybe, I don't know what was going on between Isaac and Rebekah at the time, but it's obvious that there was some unhealthiness going on there as well. So she said, I'll tell you what, here's a way, let's come up with a plan so you get the blessing and not your brother. And he tricked his brother into selling him his birthright for a bowl of stew. If you don't know the story, please go back and read it. It's obvious that Jacob is dealing with pride here. He wants to be top dog. So he tricks his brother, and not only does he trick his brother, he also tricks his father into believing that he is Esau. When he goes to bless him and give him the blessing, he actually tricks him. All kinds of deceit in his heart. All kinds of jealousy that he's dealing with. I want to get that. I want to get there. So when Esau finds out that the blessing had been given away, it says in Genesis 27:41, it says, Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessings his father had given him. He said to himself, the days of mourning for my father are near. Then I will kill my brother Jacob. I will kill him. I mean, it's on. You have done something to me. You have taken something from me. You have robbed me. I am in the right. You are in the wrong. And I want vengeance. There's unforgiveness in his heart. There's jealousy there. Just, right back at him. Now he is the low man on the totem pole. And maybe some of you in here today, you've been wronged. Maybe someone has stolen something from you. Maybe someone has said some things about you that just aren't true in order to kind of jostle for position in your family, in your work, wherever that may be. And you say, I cannot believe you did this to me. And Esau was like, hey, Jacob, you are a dead man. After my father passes away, when the days of mourning, after he's dead, then, man, it is on, and I'm coming after you. So what does Jacob do? He actually flees. He leaves and goes to work for his uncle. Now, anybody ever worked for their family before? Like in an office with your family or something like that? That is not an easy dynamic either, right? So I believe that what's going on here is that God is actually saying, all right, Jacob, you got the blessing. You got the blessing that comes from your father, which ultimately came from God as well. This is the lineage through which Jesus is going to come into the world. And saying, I want you to have this, but here's the thing, Jacob. There's a lot of nasty stuff in your heart. There's a lot of deceit there. There's some things that I want to bless you, but I just can't do it the way that you are. So he put him through, I believe, a series of trials, A series of things that would take that pride and begin to squash it down and saying, I as your God, as the one who wants to bless you, I cannot allow you to be blessed with all that junk in your life. I just can't do it. I don't want to leave you like that. So Jacob came through a series of failures in his life. He obviously had to run afraid for his life from his brother. And he came to work for his uncle Laban. And he as he began to work for his uncle, he noticed a young lady that was Laban's daughter, which was actually his cousin, which I can't understand that dynamic or whatever. But he says, I want you to give her to me in marriage. And he says, sure, but you got to work for me for 7 years. So he did. He worked for her for 7 years. And then at that time, when they actually went to go get married, he switched out the daughters and gave her the other one. And he says, all right, well, hey, you tricked me. I'm the trickster. I know a trick when I see it. I said, okay, you're right. I'll give you, but you got to work for another 7 years. Jacob, all of a sudden, the trickster, was tricked. Kind of got a dose of his own medicine. He began to see the deceit in his own heart, and through many other instances of God shaping him and molding him. This is a man that I want to bless, but I can't bless him the way that he is. There was even an experience where it says that Jacob, and another strange thing from the Bible, where Jacob wrestled an angel, and the angel actually touched him on the hip and caused his hip to come out of socket, and Jacob had a limp for the rest of his life. And through these experiences, I believe God began to soften Jacob's heart and remind him, you have a brother. And through this process, Jacob said, I need to make peace with my brother. But he wants to kill me. He's already said it. He's already signed my death warrant. I've been fleeing. I've been hiding out. But now he starts heading toward him. And he starts walking towards him. And Esau knows he's coming. And Esau's coming as well. Esau's dealing with all of this rage, all of this animosity towards him, all this jealousy. But he saw Jacob coming. And it says, Jacob looked up, and there was Esau coming with his 400 men. He himself went out on ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. And I got to get the picture here. They're heading towards this colossal thing that's going to happen. What's going to happen? Is he going to forgive his brother? Is Jacob going to deceive him again? What does Jacob do? He goes out and bows down 7 times. Just right before him. While he's a long way off. I'm sure it's kind of went something like this. Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. But I believe something in Esau's heart broke when he saw his brother taking the position of a servant. Taking the position of saying, I'm not even going to try to bring a big army. I'm not going to try to hire a bunch of guys to come with you and protect me. I am going to put myself in a vulnerable spot here because I know that I have done something wrong. And I'm going to ask for your forgiveness. So as he comes, it says in Genesis 33:1, verses 3 and 4, it says, but Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck. And if you stop right there, you might wonder, is he going to break his neck? Is he going to forgive him? Is he going to let that anger go? Is he going to let all these things go? It says, he threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Can you picture this thing that's happening out in the middle of nowhere? Esau's got his 400 guys. Jacob's just there by himself, and there's these 2 middle-aged dudes holding each other, embracing, kissing, and crying. I'm sure these 400 guys were like, hey, isn't this the guy? Isn't this your brother that stole everything from you? And actually, because we're kind of your servants, he actually kind of stole from us too. Isn't this the guy that tricked your father? Isn't this the guy that did everything wrong to you in your life? You can totally blame him for everything that has gone wrong in your life. Why in the world are you hugging him and kissing him and embracing him and crying like a third grade girl. Why? Why? Are there people in your life that have wronged you? Are there people in your life that have maybe stolen from you? Are there people that are just so prideful they look down on you? Do they throw things back in your face? Or have you ever felt like you were kind of the black sheep of the family because of this person? What does God say to his people about the way that we're supposed to deal with this kind of conflict? What does he say? How are we as God's people supposed to be when it comes to this? Philippians 2:5-7 says this. He says, your attitude should be the same of that of Christ Jesus, who being in the very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be grasped. In other words, I am fully God, but I'm not going to go around and like shout it from the rooftops. Something to be grasped, but he made himself, what does it say right there? He made himself what? Nothing. Made himself nothing, taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness. In other words, he could have claimed I am God, you know, blah, blah, blah. But he didn't. He took the nature of a servant. At Christmas, we celebrate this. That he didn't come out of heaven on a steed, you know, on 4 horses that are flaming or anything like that. He came as a baby, the most helpless creature ever. He said, he took the nature of a servant. This played out 33 years later after he's born and the night he was betrayed. And many of you probably heard me tell the story, but it's such a powerful story, such a powerful picture of what we're talking about here today. Is that on the night he was betrayed, the disciples gathered in a place called the upper room, and they had prepared the Passover, which is the most holy of holidays for the Jews, remembering the day that God saved them from Pharaoh. Something they did every single year. And he's saying, I want to come and share this meal for you. I've been looking forward to this night. And what do they do the night before he's about to die? They start having a family argument. They start arguing about who is the greatest. Who is the greatest, Jesus? Who is the greatest? Well, we were on the Mount of Transfiguration when we saw your face and change and all these incredible things happen, and Moses and Elijah were there, and it was great, it was awesome, huge, powerful miracle. No, well, we were there when, hey, Peter could have said, well, I walked on water with him. I mean, I got to be the greatest, right? I mean, we talked about that last week. And I'm sure he's sitting there thinking, guys, I have spent 3.5 years with you, trying to show you the kingdom of God, trying to illustrate it so you can understand it, and here you are fighting over little, small, insignificant things. I'm sure there was part of him that was just thinking, have I wasted 3.5 years of my life? And I'm sure he could have gotten up and said, guys, you have missed the point. You guys are silly. This is not right. And he could have, he was powerful. He could have struck them all dead and said, I'm going to start over. This is not going to work with you 12 guys. I got to do this over here. He didn't do that. What did he do? It says that he took off his outer robes, which is the representation of his power as a rabbi, his authority, his priestly garbs. He took all of that off. You know what he put on? Put on a towel around his waist, wrapped it around, tied it to his waist. That's what a servant would do. This is what a slave would do. And what he did was he went around with a thing of water and washed the disciples' nasty feet. Now, these are not just like nasty feet like they've been wearing socks all day. I mean, this is people that have worn sandals and have been walking down dusty roads, walking through animal dung, all kinds of stuff. These are nasty feet. This is the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, and he gets on his knees and goes around to one person after another. And this is not like 2 minutes like we normally think of it. This probably took quite a while to wash all of these feet. And afterwards, you know what he said? He said, do you understand what I've done for you? It's such a rhetorical question because there's no way they really understood it. What he did was he didn't get up and start shouting and start preaching to them. You're not right. What you did was wrong. I can't believe you did that. What did he do? He got down and served them and set the perfect example of how we can respond to our families when there's a crisis. How we can respond to our families when there's things that have happened to us. These are the very men that were going to betray him that very night, fall asleep, and run away. But he still served them. Today, as you, I'm sure, are thinking about the people in your families, in your work, in your immediate families and your distant family relationships, who are those people that maybe God is saying, I just want you to take the chance to wrap a towel around your waist and begin to serve them today. I also want you to forgive those things that need to be forgiven. I want you to receive the forgiveness from other people, even if they're not offering it. I want you to serve. I want you to be a servant. What could God do through us this holiday season if we took on that attitude? So we said, God, we'll do whatever it takes to reflect who you are. There's an organization that works mostly in Kenya called the 410 Bridge. And the 410 Bridge, they go in and they drill wells, and they set up all kinds of projects in these villages. And they've tried to focus on one country, the country of Kenya, but when Haiti happened, they actually expanded a little bit to Haiti as well. And they said, we're going to do this one village at a time. And what they said, we don't even go in and preach to these people at first. What we do is we go in and dig a well. And we go in and hopefully through that service, they begin to understand and we begin to make relationships with the people and all this, and then it opens up huge wide doors for us to share the gospel with these people. And the way they illustrate it is they say, we want people to hear the music of the gospel before they hear the words. We want people to experience the gospel in action, faith in action, before we hear what's coming out of our mouths. What if this Christmas we took on that attitude? Saying even the most unlovable, even the people that have wronged us, that have hurt us, we are going to actively, not just say, hey, we'll just kind of ignore them and we'll be civil this year. Can you actively serve them, love them, show them the grace of God through your attitude and with the ways that you interact with it? Who is that person? We're going to pray here in just a second, and what I want to invite you guys to do is actually to take a moment to ask God, open up my heart in this moment. Show me. Maybe there's some people that I need to connect with this holiday. Maybe it's a forgiveness issue. Maybe it's we need to work some things out. Maybe it's just that this person needs to know who Christ is, and I'm going to serve them, even though there's no conflict with them right now, but I'm going to reach out. God, open up my heart. Show me where those opportunities are. God, may I be a walking example to my family this holiday season of who you are and who you want me to be. Let's pray.